Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So glad that you're here with us today. My name is Christina, and I'm the Family Engagement Coordinator at San Francisco Public Library. Wherever you're tuning in from, we're really glad that you're here with us. Go ahead and pop in the chat where you're from. We love knowing where our audiences are tuning in from. And we'll get started in just a minute at 4 o'clock. Isn't that fun? That's our new trailer for our series of Make and Do programs. These are for school age kids and their families. We're really excited to launch a new website. It's part of our overarching website, sfpl.org. But if you go to sfpl.org/make hyphen and do, you can find all kinds of calendar listings for future craft programs like the one that we have today, book lists, and resources, different things that you can print that we've custom created for you from our graphic designers. So check that out as soon as you can. And I just want to welcome everyone who's here with us. Good afternoon. Welcome. Once again, my name is Christina, and I'm the Family Engagement Coordinator at San Francisco Public Library. Every Monday at 4 o'clock Pacific time for the remainder of 2020, our friends from Book Arts Roadshow are here with us to demonstrate a different book arts project. Today's project is Easy Decorative Paper and Notebooks. To see the full schedule, project list, and supply list, check out the program calendar at sfpl.org. And our trusty buddy in the chat will go ahead and put all that there where you can access that. Once again, this is part of our Make and Do program series, and I want to thank the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library for their very generous support of this special series. We just couldn't do it without them. So without further ado, let me welcome Book Arts Roadshow. Book Arts Roadshow is co-founded by Cheryl Ball and C.K. Itamura, and they provide amazing book arts instructions, hands-on learning experiences for children, teens, and grown-ups. And I have to say, these women are a lot of fun. So take it away, Book Arts Roadshow.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hope you're having a good week so far, especially since it's just Monday and the week has just begun. So there's a lot of potential for this week to be a really good one. So we are excited to be back. So far, we've been here making projects for the past couple of weeks. And we hope you've been having fun with us. This week, we're going to focus on making little notebooks. Here's some examples of the notebooks, and making decorative paper that you can use for the cover of the notebook, and that decorative paper that you can also use as wrapping paper to wrap your notebooks as gifts. So before we get started, we're going to show you the supplies that you'll need. So one of the things that you'll need is some paper, and if you have a pair of scissors, those are going to come in handy today as well. If you have a pencil, that's great. Pencil and eraser are always handy to have available. You'll also need some crayons. So if you've got crayons you can grab. And then also today, having some watercolors and a paintbrush and a cup of water will also come in handy. So we'll give you just a moment to grab all your supplies. Another thing that might come in handy, especially when we're using water, is maybe to have a couple of paper towels or a rag handy in case something spills. And also, if you happen to have some old newspaper or a paper bag that you can put on your table or desktop so that you don't get paint on the desk. That'll probably be handy too. If you don't have those things handy, that's okay. You could still work on the project, and if anything gets on the table, you can clean it off later. But if you happen to have those things available,
Or a
So
placemat.
or a placemat. That'll be great. So what we're going to do is, oh, we didn't introduce ourselves. So I'm CK Itamura, and my name is actually Cheryl, but you can call me CK. And also we have Cheryl Ball.
That's me.
And so we're both Cheryls, but on my screen it says CK, and on Cheryl's it says Cheryl. And also, I just want to share with you this handy little button that I have. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's my Reading Ranger button from the San Francisco Public Library. It's part of the summer reading program. So if you don't know about the summer reading program, because it's December and we're almost in winter right now, that's okay. Just keep in mind the words summer reading program and reading rangers. So when summertime rolls around, be sure to keep your eye out for that on the San Francisco Public Library website, newsletter, and all the social media, so you can find out how you can participate too. So let's see. For starters, let's get Cheryl to turn on her overhead camera so that you can see her hands. So as I'm talking to you and giving in some instructions, Cheryl's magic hands there are going to demonstrate the steps for making these different papers. So one type of making paper, decorative paper, is by using crayons in some ways that we're going to show to you today to make a collagraph. Now, you're probably used to using crayons to draw pictures or maybe color in coloring books and things like that. But we're going to use them in a slightly different way to use them to make decorative paper. So for starters, I'm going to ask you to grab a couple of colors that you really like out of your box, and we're going to take the paper off of the crayon. The little paper on the outside, you're going to peel it off because it just makes it easier when we're making collagraphs to use the sides of the crayon instead of the tip of the crayon. Now, if you like your crayons just as they are with the paper on them, you can leave the paper on them, and we'll show you how you can still use your crayons with the paper on them to do a collagraph as well. But for the purposes of our demonstration, we're going to go ahead and take the paper off. So let's see, I'm going to do that. And this is another thing that's optional for you, so you don't have to do it unless you feel like it. But I'm actually going to break my crayon in half. Now, I know there's a lot of people who do not like to break their crayons. They like their crayons just the way they are. And if you're one of those people who likes the crayons just the way they are, you can leave it. But I'm going to break mine because what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to rub my crayon using the side of my crayon on the paper instead of drawing with the tip of my crayon. So that's the purpose of what we're doing here. So I see that Cheryl's magic hands there she just broke a crayon and she's taking the paper off of it, and we're giving you a moment to do the same thing if you choose to. Don't feel like you have to, you don't, but just follow along with us and we'll get started with our collagraph momentarily. So we mentioned that there's 4 different ways that we're going to do a collagraph. And great, I think Cheryl's almost ready, and so am I. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take one of your pieces of paper and you're going to, now see, now I have a piece of paper that's called Cardstock, and it's just a little bit thicker than my paper from my copy machine. So I'm going to start with that one, but whatever paper you have will be perfectly fine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut some interesting shapes out of the paper. And I'm not even going to draw the shapes first, although if you want to, you can draw some shapes on your paper first. Or you can just use your scissors to cut interesting shapes. but we're not looking to create any type of particular shape. So in fact, I'm just going to, we just want the shapes to be fun. That's the main thing. Just like fun shapes. They don't have to be an object. It doesn't have to be an animal. It doesn't have to be a vegetable. It doesn't have to be a thing. It could just simply be a fun shape. So here's another fun shape. Here's another fun shape. And Cheryl's doing the same thing. She's cutting out some very geometric shapes, triangles and quadrilaterals and parallelograms.
I'm just cutting.
Cutting some interesting shapes there. And they can be big shapes like this. So you don't need to cut a lot of small shapes, but just cut some big shapes. I think I'm just going to get 4 pieces out of here, and Cheryl's got a lot more than I do. But let's see. This one's going to, I seem to make a lot of cloud looking shapes. So this one's kind of like a cloud in the sky. Okay, so I've got my shapes. Cheryl's got her shapes. So at this point, you're going to take the paper that you cut your shapes out of, and we're going to use this too. So don't scrunch it up and throw it in the trash yet, because we're actually going to use this piece as well as the pieces that we cut out. So save it all. They're all good to make decorative paper out of. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we'll start with the, let's see, we're going to take this piece, the big piece that you cut the shapes out of. Go ahead and put that one down on your tabletop or your desktop or whatever surface that you're working on. And the first way we're going to do a collagraph, the first type, is to put your original cutout piece. So this is the 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that you cut out your shapes out of. And this one we're going to put on your work surface. And then we're going to get another piece of paper. Now this is just a piece of paper from my little desk printer that I have. And I'm going to put it down on top of that. And it doesn't matter if you match them up exactly. They could be not matched up on purpose. So just know that you don't have to match it up exactly. So in fact, I'm going to just kind of put it a little crooked on purpose. And then if you had peeled the paper off of your crayon and broke it in half, you're just going to take a piece of the crayon. And if you're not one of the people that did that, if you still have your crayon that's a whole crayon, then you're going to grab that. So I'm going to give you 2 sets of instructions, and you can follow which one applies to what your crayons look like right now. So if you have your crayon peeled and broken in half, then you're going to rub the side of your crayon across the paper, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And you're going to press down kind of hard so that you can start to see. You're going to just go ahead and rub all over the paper. And eventually, you're going to start to see the shape that you cut out of the paper emerge on the paper. So for instance, I'm just going to hold this up. Here's my cutout, and here is my collagraph. So you can see it, they're the same shapes that are showing up on my, oh, hello there. I'm going to show that are showing up on my paper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the paper down at a different angle than I did before. And I'm going to get one of my other crayons and do the same thing with a different color. So this time I put my paper at a different angle than what I had last time. And I'm going to do the same thing. Now, I mentioned that if your crayons still have the paper on it and they're not broken in half, that's okay. you can use the tip of your crayon and do the same thing and just rub that all over the surface of your paper, and that will work too. The only difference really is that you're going to have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth a lot more times than if you were using the side of your crayon. So it's just a little bit more work. Or if you look at it in another way, it's just a little more exercise that you're giving your arm and your hand going back and forth. So go ahead and do that. Cheryl's using a different color, and you can start to see that the circles are coming out. And I wonder, Cheryl, do you have your overhead light on right now on your, I'm wondering if maybe we could see better if, yeah, that makes it so that we can see the color better.
Oh,
super.
That's weird. It's so washed out.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to do my second one. And I know you all can't see me. Oh, and I just want to double check because I can't see the view, but I want to make sure that everyone out there is actually able to see both Cheryl and I on the screen at the same time, because I don't know if everyone's seeing both of us. So I'm hoping that everyone could see both of us at the same time. Okay, so now I have, here's my cutout. And oh, good. So I just got confirmation from the really important people behind the scenes that that yes, you can see both of us at the same time. So here's my cutout, and now you can see two different colors showing up on this piece of paper. So the fun part about doing this method of using cutouts to create designs on paper is that you can keep going in this method and keep moving your paper around and coloring with different crayons to get as many different patterns as you want to show up on your paper. And if you like what you see, you can keep using the same cutout to create that and just use different color crayons each time you're making it. But this makes really nice paper that we can use to make books. And it also makes nice wrapping paper to wrap your books in to give away as gifts. So that's the first way we can use the cutouts to make a collagraph. The second way is that instead of using this, we're going to take the pieces that we cut out originally. So now we're back to the actual cutout pieces. And these are going to go on your tabletop or your desktop. And you can just arrange them in some way that looks nice to you. And then we're going to go ahead and put your paper on top, your white piece of paper or whatever. Actually, it doesn't have to be white. Here's a yellow piece of paper. Whatever paper you happen to have is perfectly fine. You can also take a piece of newspaper and use that to color on the same way on top of your cutouts. But you're going to go ahead and put your paper on top of your cutouts. And then you're going to go ahead and grab your crayon. Maybe you want to use a different color this time. It's really up to you. Maybe I'll use a different color this time since it's up to me. And let's see, Cheryl's grabbing a crayon and she's going to go ahead and rub the crayon. I think she's going to do the method where she's using the side of the crayon. And I think this time, just for the sake of being different, I'm going to use the tip of my crayon that still has paper on it, that's not broken, and I'm going to use the tip of it so you can see what that would look like when you just use that part of the crayon. And I am just going back and forth and back and forth, and Cheryl's I can see her triangles and her geometric shapes coming up. Now, while you're coloring along with us to make your second type of colograph, just think ahead to the next time you cut some shapes out. You could cut out the letters for your name and cut out shapes of the letters of your name, or numbers, or animals, or any other objects. So here is, I don't know if you could see that. So this is a version of when I put my paper on top of the actual cutouts. So I put the cutouts on the desk, put the paper on top of it, and it looks like this. So that's another way you can do it. And then what you can do is put the same paper down in a slightly different position, or you can rearrange your shapes a little bit and then put your paper back down again. And then use another crayon color. In fact, this time I'm going to grab a green one. And the one that I just showed you, I used the crayon and I just did the tip of the crayon. I didn't use the side of the crayon, and that seemed to work just fine. So now, while Cheryl is
I'm using the tip now.
the tip of her orange crayon, and I am using a green one that you can't see, but I'll show you the results of this momentarily. Now you can put as much crayon on the page as you would like, or as little as you like. You can cover every single corner of the paper with crayon, or you can leave white spaces. It's really up to you. You're the artist, so you get to decide which way you want to do it, whether you want to cover the whole paper or whether you just want to cover parts of it. So let's see. So now here's my version of with green and blue, and Cheryl's got her version with yellow and orange, and this time we used the actual cutout shapes. The third way you could do it. So the third way is to start with a piece of paper. So you're going to start with just a blank piece of paper. Now you clear off your desk space so you don't have any of your cut off shapes at all on the desk. You put your piece of paper on the desk, and then you get your big piece of paper that has all the cutouts that have been cut out of it, and you put that on top of your white sheet of paper. And this time, when we color, we're just going to be coloring in the areas. And it doesn't have to be straight. You can make your paper match up if you'd like to, but it could also be like that. It doesn't have to be matching up to the shape of your cutout paper. It could be like that. And then this time what we're going to do is we're going to color in the areas that have been cut out. So you can use the side of your crayon, or you can use the tip of your crayon to fill in that shape. So this is kind of like coloring in a coloring book, except for instead of coloring inside the lines, we're coloring inside the cutout shapes.
You could call it a stencil too.
Right. And if you don't have crayons, you can do this type of colograph using color pencils or color markers. And if you don't have a color marker or a color pencil, you can use a regular pencil too. So all of these different collographs that we're creating today, you can actually do with just a regular pencil as well. So let's see, Cheryl's got that pretty blue color and that she's got, and she's filling in all of her shapes with. It's going to be a nice little polka dotted pattern on her paper.
With a lemon in the middle.
With a blue lemon in the middle because it's lemon season, and there are lemons just growing everywhere right now. It's really funny because sometimes you think of lemons because of lemonade in the summertime, but in California, the lemons actually grow in the wintertime. So that's a little fun fact for you. Okay, so I just went ahead and I colored in my shapes, or as Cheryl mentioned, stencils. And so now I have these fun shapes. Now you can color it in with a lot of crayon, or you can leave white space. It's really up to you. And then once you have it colored in as much as you like, then you can take your stencil and you can position it in a different way on the same sheet of paper, and then get another color crayon and go ahead and color that in. So let's see, green, what looks good with green? I'm going to go back to my blue and do blue. Cheryl's got orange. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now you're talking about lemons, and now that you're using your orange crayon to fill in a circle, now you've got me thinking about oranges and orange juice. So oranges in California also grow in the winter time, and it is orange season. Okay. Now we're doing two colors with our stencils, but after we're done with this video, you can take your stencils and you can keep using them, and you can use them in the same way to keep adding more colors to the same piece of paper. Oops. By just simply moving it around in a different position each time when you're coloring. Now the last way that we're going to use stencils to create another collagraph is going to be to take a piece of paper and put that down. And this time we're going to take our cutout shapes and put them down on top of the paper. And then you're basically going to take your crayon, your side of your crayon or the tip of your crayon, and color all around the shapes. So this time we're not going to color inside the shapes. We're going to basically trace around the shapes themselves and use those as shapes to, let's see if I can hold one up. So this time we're going to be tracing around the shapes. So, and if you get coloring crayon on your shape, that's perfectly fine because that's what's supposed to happen. So if you get crayon on this, it's fine. So you're going to use your shapes and trace around them this time. So that's another method to using the same shapes over and over and over again to use to make decorative elements for making decorative paper. So let's see, as soon as Cheryl's done with that shape, we're going to move on to doing a version of decorative paper that we add watercolor to. Super. So another sheet of paper, and if you're running out of paper, then what you can do is you can take one of your collagraph sheets and do this next type of paper as well. But if you do have another sheet of blank paper, go ahead and put a blank piece of paper down on your tabletop. Then this time we're going to be using the tip of the crayon instead of the side of the crayon. So if you have a crayon that you already unpapered, that you took the paper off of, I don't know if that's a word. So if you take the paper off of your crayon, now we're going to use the tip of the crayon to draw with instead of rubbing the side. So that's on that. But if you have a crayon that still has the paper on it, we're going to use the tip of that one too. So in either case, whether you have paper or no paper, we're going to draw with the tip of our crayons. So this time we're going to draw, let's do scribbly lines from the top of the paper down to the bottom, just zigzag lines and loops, using 2 different crayons. And you're going to want to press down kind of hard with the crayon so that you get a lot of the crayons are made out of wax. And if you press down hard, then a lot of the wax from the crayon is going to be transferred onto the paper. And that's what we want to have happen this time. So go ahead and make some loops or stripes or zigzags all the way down the paper. And when we're done showing you the sample, you can come up with other ideas that you can draw patterns with on your paper. Okay, so now it's going to be time, now that we've got crayon stripes and zigzags all over our paper, we're going to take our brush and our watercolors. And now Cheryl used light colored crayons. So she used yellow and some orange, and they're kind of a light color. And I actually, when you weren't looking or when you couldn't see, I used red and blue. So those are darker colors. So on Cheryl's paper, what she's going to do is she's going to pick a dark color of watercolor, and she's going to put some water on her brush. She's going to take a dark color of watercolor paint, and she's going to go back and forth all over the paper to cover the whole paper. But look what happens when she does that. All the places that she had the crayon are almost lighting up on the paper because the crayon is resisting the paint, and the paint is going around the crayon. So the crayon's not getting on any of the areas on your paper where the wax crayon is. And in my case, on my red, white, and blue paper, I'm going to try and use a light color and see how that looks, and I'll show you in a moment. So if you're using dark color crayons, you might want to try and use light color paint. And if you're using light color crayons, you might want to use darker color paint when you're painting your sheet. So let's see. That's starting to look really, really nice. And I think almost done with that. So while she's showing you that, I'll show you some examples of, so I showed you at the beginning of this session, I showed you these little books. And this was decorative paper that was made using crayons and then putting black watercolor paint all over it. Same with this one. It's just black paint over the crayon and these polka dots. Same thing. So depending on what color of paint you decide to use and what type of crayons you decide to use, you can have a lot of different effects. And you also don't have to use the same color of watercolor all over the paper. You can mix the colors up, and you can use different colors on different sections of the paper as well, so that you end up having something like that, where there's just different colors all over the whole thing. Super. So right now we're going to go ahead and set that to the side and let that dry. We'll put that one aside, and we're going to make a little book now. So let's see, let's grab one of the, go ahead and grab one of the papers, the decorative papers that you made earlier, one that you like a lot. And we'll use that as the book cover for our book. And then we're going to grab another sheet of paper to use for the inside of the book. Let's see. Oh, and I should mention, because I should have mentioned it earlier, is that if you have a stapler handy, that's going to come in handy right about now. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your piece of decorative paper. Now, the ones that we're using are 8.5 inches by 11 inches, which is the standard size of paper that goes in copy machines. But you don't have to use this type of paper, this size of paper. Whatever size of paper you're using will be fine. But we're going to go ahead and fold our paper because we want to make it smaller. So we're going to go ahead and fold it in half this direction, which is called a hamburger fold. And this way is folding paper this way is called a hot dog fold because it's long like a hot dog, and folding it this way is more like a hamburger because a hamburger's more square shape. And so we're going to fold it this direction, and then we're going to go ahead and cut. We're going to open it up, and then we're going to cut on the fold to make the paper half the size. And basically, if your paper is already smaller, then you can leave your paper smaller. Great. So now we have enough from this one sheet to make 2 little notebooks out of. So then we're going to fold it in half, take one of the sheets and fold it in half again. Great. And then we're going to fold it in half even smaller. So now the front and back of our little book have decorative paper on it. And when you flip it around, the inside covers are going to have decorative paper on them as well. So then if you're using the same size of paper that we are, which is 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, then what you're going to do is put that book aside, and then we're going to get a blank sheet of paper to make the pages that go inside of it. So on the blank sheet of paper, and Cheryl's using yellow paper for her inside of her paper, then we're going to go ahead and cut that. I'm sorry, we're going to fold that in half the same way, and then we're going to open it up and cut on the fold. Great. And then we're going to take both sheets of paper and we're going to put them together, and we're going to fold them together in half again. And then we're going to open that up and we're going to cut both sheets of paper together because there's 2 sheets together. We're going to go ahead and cut them on that fold again. Now we have 4 sheets of paper. We have 2 here, 2 here, and then we're going to stack them all together like that. So now we have 4 sheets of paper all stacked together, and then we're going to go ahead and fold those in half. Great. Now we're going to grab our cover, the decorative paper cover, take our pages, put our pages inside the cover, and this is where the stapler comes in. So Cheryl's going to go ahead and staple the inside right on the fold. So if you put a couple of staples right on that fold, that'll hold the pages inside your cover. And then you have your book. The last step on this part of the book is to crease it really well. So on the side that has the fold, you're going to want to grab something like the edge of a pencil, or even just your fingers, or any other object you have that you can press down on that crease really hard to make your fold. So that the book lays flat.
I have a spoon.
The spoon. And Cheryl, oh, and I should mention, and so this little notebook that you just made with the decorative paper that you created, you don't have to make it just this size. You can make them bigger just by not folding your paper and cutting it so small. But Cheryl has a good tip for when you want to staple a book that's bigger than your stapler is. So take it away, Cheryl.
Okay, so here's an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I'm like, oh no, I can't. It doesn't reach. So this stapler opens up, so flat like that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to get some cardboard like this. I'm going to put my book down. Let me get closer so you can see. So with the stapler open like this, you can even use a little tiny mini one. You're just going to put your stapler down on the fold, press down, and what'll happen is you're going to get the little staples sticking up. Can you see that?
Yes.
Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors or your spoon and you can push them down. So that's how you can use you could staple your, use your stapler to staple in bigger sheets or deeper paper sizes.
Got it. And so right now you're taking the pokey end of the staples and flattening it with something else so you don't poke your fingers, basically.
Right. And let me show you. I think I need to do it on the harder surface, but anyways, this is just a quick sample to show you, but you can staple your paper.
Great. So you can make books any size using that method.
Yep.
Super. So now we're just about to wrap up, but we want to mention you have all this other paper that you made today, all these other decorative pieces of paper, and you have your stencils. You can make more collagraphs out of. So we hope you make more. And the one that you watercolored today, I assume it's probably not quite dry yet because mine's not dry yet, but I'm going to set that to the side and I'm going to save that because next Monday, when we're back here on the San Francisco Public Library YouTube channel at 4:00 next Monday, I'm going to use this piece of paper that we made today for one of the books we're working on next Monday. So if you want to save a piece of your paper to bring back and make more books with us next Monday, save it and we'll use it then. Great. And in the meantime, I hope you take all the rest of your pieces of decorative paper and make some more books, and maybe even use some of it as wrapping paper to wrap your books in to give us to people as gifts for the holidays.
Thank you so much, Book Arts Roadshow. That was awesome. That stapler hack at the end, Cheryl, oh my gosh, that was everything. But I love that you're also giving people a teaser for coming back next week. So please, if you love today's workshop, join us next Monday at 4 for another live workshop where we'll learn how to make an expandable art scrap photo book. I love these titles. It's like, what is that exactly? You have to come to find out. And just remember, today's workshop will be available to replay any parts that you need to view again and share with your buddies on our SFPL YouTube immediately. And again, Instagram is a great place to see more of Book Arts Roadshow's art, as well as sharing your own. So tag us at SFPL. SF Public Library is our handle, and tag us and show us what you've made from these workshops. And that's all for now, folks. Take really good care of yourself, be safe, and we'll see you really soon. Can't wait to see what you create. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Oh, lots of people on the chat saying thank you. Thanks so much. We're so glad you came.
Yay. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.